All right, now let's take this discussion further. We're now joined in studio by Nixon Katembo, Africa Analyst, Affairs Analyst and Channel Africa Executive Producer. Thank you so much for your time, Nixon. Of course, just hearing that report, calls for a re-election. I mean, in 63 years of independence, the DRC has only had what people have said, one peaceful transition, of power. So there is, of course, a lot at stake, following these elections. Just talk to us about just some of your observations. And already we're hearing those calls of irregularities. What does it all mean?
Well, I think we need to understand first the preparation of the elections before we get to the irregularity that are mentioned in the package or the report by the Catholic Church. One is that the infrastructure challenges that the country faces. This is the size of Western Europe. You're talking about South Africa, both Zimbabwe and Botswana combined. Two is the issue around the voter registration. That they said that it was not audited. However, the Independent Electoral Commission said that these are processes that we went through together with all the candidates, and they all agree that the election can proceed. The third, we look at the budget for the election. This is an election that costed almost $600 million to prepare, and it was fully funded by the DRC government, unlike previous elections where MONUSCO, the United Nations, and the European Union, including the US, have contributed some of the funds. So I think it's only fair to look at those elections and assess them objectively based on the country's situation and look at what are the challenges that they faced in it. Now, the second aspect, you have to look at the candidates themselves. Leading up to these elections, just 3 weeks, those candidates from the opposition, they were here trying to find a common candidate to face President Tshisekedi in 3 weeks' time before the elections. Actually, when the campaign have started, it shows that on the part of the opposition also, there was a poor management of preparing in facing the incumbent president. Therefore, the incumbent president kind of had the lead over them. The other aspect is you have to look at now the security challenge in the east of the country. What are the messages that the candidates were driving vis-a-vis what the people want? Part of the critical issues that were in this election was the security of the country, and particularly with the insurrection, the insurrection of the M23 rebellion in the east. And therefore, the message that were driven by President Tshisekedi in terms of fighting those rebels, to the extent of accusing his counterpart in Rwanda for funding and meddling in the affair of the DRC, and therefore, as a political maneuvering in sending a message that we are going to take the war to Rwanda. And by the way, it's for the first time since 1996 that a president from the DRC is pointing President Paul Kagame of Rwanda by name in terms of how the security situation of the country. We don't want to get much into it. Yeah. So there is a lot at stake in these elections that one can extrapolate if time allows.
Despite and given what you have just alluded to in terms of the incumbent Felix Tshisekedi getting this head start. And given the preliminary results that we're already being told that he is currently leading, should he then, be given this chance to run the country and be given his second term? The question still remains, though, will this be seen as this having been a democratic process? Just on the basis of what already some observers have found. I mean, even before going into the elections, there were questions in terms of some regions, and I think you alluded to those areas that are currently under conflict, that were not given the opportunity to vote.
Let me say this. The question of the irregularities said from the opposition and some of the observers are not peculiar to the issue of the DRC. We saw it in Zimbabwe. I was lucky to go and cover the election in Zimbabwe. Similar situation happened. The extension of the voting process to another day in Zimbabwe happened. So was the DRC because of the infrastructure challenge. Now, if you say that they are doubt because a certain issue were raised, does it erase the voting or the voice of 44 million Congolese who woke up to go and vote for whatever candidate who will come victorious out of these elections? And I think we have to look at a broader picture versus the narrow interests of a certain political parties or even political leader in that country, but to look at what is in for the country, what is in for the people of the DRC, what is the message that those candidates were sending, to the extent that it gave the incumbent president a margin to lead over the others. I followed Moise Katumbi's election campaign. He spent so much on attacking the president rather than sending a clear message. And on a critical issues such as security, he was not forthcoming. He was wishy-washy. He talked about increasing the salary of soldiers, increasing the defense budget, the teachers, but not looking at what are the regional dynamics that forms the war in the DRC, and therefore tackling them on the basis of what is on the ground and what the country is facing. And that was a challenge.
And I want us to talk about those challenges, you know, that the country is currently facing. I'm going to talk to two. You know, a peaceful DRC is currently the number one priority for millions of Congolese people, without a doubt. But also there is a need for economic stability and, of course, job creation. Now, when you look at the incumbent and when you look at the challenges that this country faces, and also the dynamics in terms of regional and political crisis that it is facing, what then is he going to make different, or what should he then focus on to make the situation currently different as we see it today?
You know, no country ever developed without having a peaceful environment. And one of the challenges that the DRC have is the issue of security. Every time any president who tried to come up with such a development project, it's always disturbed or even interrupted with the war. And therefore, what could have been allocated for development get allocated to the defense budget. And the war is a business. The country does not even produce a single bullet, but a single ammunition of an AK-47 is about $1.5 or $0.8, depending on which kind of cartridge, ammunition you're going to buy, and depending on the kind of weapon that you are. If you have carrying a R5 or AK-47 or AK-72, depending on the different arms. Now you look at things like artillery shells, helicopter gunships. You look at jets, fighting jets. All these cost billions of dollars. And for me, the priority now for the DRC is to look at the security issues. And that can only happen through doing a security sector reform, building the state of institutions that are responsive to the development and the peaceful environment of the country. And then look after that at the development vis-a-vis into the relation with economic development with other. Now, the DRC hold about 70% of world cobalt. And these are critical rare mineral resources that could have helped the country much as it is helping the development of the world by manufacturing your phone, engine, and laptops and so on.
So
but the people are not benefiting.
The problems are vast and also very systemic. Nixon, thank you so much. We could speak about this forever, but unfortunately we have run out of time. But definitely we'll be watching, those developments coming out of the DRC, of course, saying thank you there to our Africa Affairs Analyst and Channel Africa Executive Producer Nixon Katembo, just watching what the developments and what is currently transpiring in the DRC.